In the world of AI, for the longest time, OpenAI has been the name on everyone's lips, right? But what if I told you their biggest, most serious challenger didn't come from some rival tech giant, but from right inside their own walls? Well, let's talk about Anthropic. So let's start with a number. $350 billion. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That's the kind of valuation we're talking about, right up there with giants like Bank of America. And this is for a company that's barely a few years old. So how on earth did they get here? You see, the story of Anthropic isn't just about code and algorithms. It's really a story about a fundamental disagreement, a philosophical crack right down the middle about what the future of AI should even look like. And that crack led to one of the biggest breakups in modern tech. Okay, so to really understand Anthropic, you have to go back to the beginning, to this really dramatic origin story. It all starts with a philosophical split inside OpenAI, the very company they're now going head-to-head with. So in 2021, a group of 7 really key people just walked away from OpenAI. We're talking about some serious heavy hitters here, led by the brother-sister duo Dario and Daniela Amodi. But check this out, the group also included Tom Brown, the lead engineer on GPT-3, the model that basically changed everything. They left because of this core conflict. They felt OpenAI was starting to chase profits and move way too fast, putting commercial goals ahead of building AI safely. And this isn't just talk. This idea is baked right into the company's DNA. Their CEO, Dario Amodei, has pointedly said that the way they've structured Anthropic, with all these checks and balances, is specifically designed to prevent the kind of internal drama that, later blew up at OpenAI. They were determined to build something different. So, if you're going to leave the hottest AI company on the planet over safety concerns, you'd better have a pretty good idea of how to do it better, right? Well, their answer was this really fascinating, kind of radical new approach they call constitutional AI. Think about it like this. Instead of playing whack-a-mole, constantly telling an AI, no, that's a bad answer, over and over again for millions of scenarios, what if you could just give it a core set of values? A rule book, or a constitution to guide its own decisions. And this constitution isn't just made up. It's based on things like the UN Declaration of Human Rights, so the AI's ethical compass is built in from the start. So how do they actually do this? Well, it's basically a 2-step dance. In the first phase, they get the AI to generate some pretty bad answers on purpose. Then, using that constitution, they teach the AI to look at its own bad answers, critique them, and rewrite them to be better. It's learning to self-correct. Then, in the second phase, the AI generates 2 answers to a prompt and has to choose which one is more aligned with the constitution. Over time, it basically becomes its own safety coach. Pretty clever. Okay, so all of this theory, all this philosophy about safety and constitutions, it all comes together in their actual product, their answer to ChatGPT, an AI with a very simple name, Claude. And here it is. This is Claude. Now, at first glance, it looks just like any other chatbot, right? But what's happening under the hood is totally different. This is an AI built from the ground up on that constitutional framework we just talked about. It's designed not just to be smart, but to be helpful and, crucially, harmless by its very nature. So what really made Claude stand out, especially when it first launched? It was this thing called the context window. Think of it as the AI's short-term memory. Early ChatGPT could remember about 4,000 tokens of a conversation. Claude came out of the gate with a massive 200,000 token window. That's literally the difference between reading a few pages of a book and being able to read and analyze the entire book in one shot. It made it a beast for really deep, complex work. But of course, the AI race doesn't stand still for a second. Today, the real showdown is between Anthropic's latest and greatest, Claude, and OpenAI's newest powerhouse, GPT-4o. All right, let's break down the matchup. Claude 3.5 Sonnet still has the edge with that huge context window, and it's also leading in something called agentic coding, which is a fancy way of saying it's better at solving complex programming problems all by itself. But GPT-4o is no slouch. It's got native audio, it can listen and speak, and it's currently the champ when it comes to pure math problems. So you've got this classic trade-off, Claude's deep reasoning versus GPT-4o's incredible versatility. And this really shows you what that means in the real world. On the left, you've got Claude, which is an absolute genius at chewing through massive, complex documents. Think legal contracts, financial reports, that kind of stuff. On the right, you've got GPT-4o, which excels at more interactive, creative tasks. So if you need an AI to help you review a 500-page legal brief, Claude is your go-to. If you want a real-time voice assistant to help you brainstorm ideas, you're probably picking GPT-4o.
So this whole safety-first, business-focused strategy, it sounds nice, but is it actually working as a business? Well, the answer seems to be a resounding yes, because it's attracting absolutely staggering amounts of money.
I mean, just look at this chart. This is their annual recurring revenue. They went from $10 million in 2022 to a projected $200 million just 1 year later. That is a 1,900% growth rate. That is the kind of hockey stick growth that makes every investor on the planet sit up and pay very close attention.
And that insane revenue growth lit a rocket under their valuation. They started in 2021 with a respectable $124 million. Fast forward to March 2025, they hit over $61 billion. And just a few months after that, they surged to that jaw-dropping $350 billion estimate. The acceleration is just mind-boggling.
And who's writing these massive checks? Well, it's basically a who's who of big tech. Amazon, Google, Microsoft, NVIDIA, they've all poured billions and billions of dollars into Anthropic. You have to understand, for these giants, this isn't just about a potential payout. It's a strategic move. It's about making sure they have a major stake in the AI race, no matter who ultimately comes out on top.
So when you zoom out, what does all of this really mean for the future of AI? It perfectly sets up the central conflict we're seeing play out right now, the high-stakes race for truly responsible artificial intelligence.
And it's so important to remember this one last thing about Anthropic. They aren't a typical company. They're structured as a public benefit corporation, or PBC. That means, by law, they are required to balance making money for their shareholders with their stated mission of benefiting humanity. It's a legal commitment to the very principles that made them leave OpenAI in the first place.
Which brings us right back to the biggest question of all. You have these two titans, born from the very same lab, now on two fundamentally different paths. One is all about moving fast, pushing the boundaries of capability, and getting it out to as many people as possible. The other is all about safety, stability, and careful, deep reasoning. So, in this epic race to build what might be the most powerful technology ever created, what's going to win out in the end? Speed or safety?